So we back with another tier list. Now it's been a while since I've done a tier list video. It was been I think at least 2 weeks since I did my Cyno tier list video. But Cyno tier list video, I decided to make another tier list. I know it's a little bit late to make a Nilou tier list, but Nilou has been out for what, like a couple weeks now, like 2 or 3 weeks now. I didn't make a tier list that early because I was not really really didn't care much about it, right? I was waiting for the Dendro Articon to come out so I could rank her there. But I decided there was a lot of comments in my comments always saying, "Where's Nilou? We want a Nilou tier list." So I decided to finally make a Nilou tier list, and I kind of want to make this more so because Genshin 3.1 is about to hit, right? 3.1 is about to hit, and it's going to be a big update for Genshin, and I just kind of want to rank everyone and see where everyone's at before this update hits, because once this update hits, there's going to be a lot of changes to a lot of these characters, and I just want to point out that these are the changes before the update, right? There's going to be a lot of new people coming in, and I want to kind of have a new tier list out before the Dendro Archon kind of shakes up the meta for Genshin, right? So I want to have where all the characters stand before the Dendro Archon comes out. So when the Dendro Archon comes out, we can talk about in the next tier list about where these characters change and where these characters are going to either become better or become worse, right? So that's pretty much like the premise of why I'm making another tier list so late. But I kind of just want to figure out where everyone is at before 3.1, right? 3.1 hits. And if you're wondering, if you're one of those new subscribers, or maybe you're someone who doesn't catch my streams, but I've been wearing beanies on my stream, so go to twitch.tv/theaxon, because I be streaming over there, sometimes Genshin and sometimes non-Genshin related stuff. So go watch that, and go watch my other Genshin videos because they're super entertaining. But let's get into this tier list, right? So a couple of disclaimers before I start with this tier list. Just because I have characters like, for example, if let's say I have Arataki Itto and Kokomi in the same tier, right? And I have Kokomi ahead of Arataki Itto, right? Just because I have Kokomi ahead of Arataki Itto doesn't mean I believe Kokomi is better than Arataki Itto. I just happen to place them at that time, right? These tiers are not ordered, so don't worry about that when you go into the comments and be like, why is Kokomi ahead of this character, or why is Bennett ahead of like Hu Tao? It doesn't really matter, right? I'm not really ranking that tiers, because if I rank these tiers, these videos are going to be like an hour long, and no one wants to watch an hour long video, right? So after those disclaimers away, I know for people who have always watched these videos, you already know these disclaimers, but there's always newcomers, there's always people who are like, why is this character ahead of, just watch the beginning of the video. If you watch the beginning of the video, you understand, right? Alright, so we're going to speed run a lot of these characters because I feel like we all know where these characters belong. There's a lot of these characters where we're just like, oh yeah, automatically we know where this character goes, right? So Arataki Itto, 11 through 20, and he will be one of the few characters I spend some time on, but I always see these in my comments below, right? Arataki Itto isn't like, he's not that much better than Xiao, right? Obviously, you can have your whole argument that Xiao was on the Arataki Itto's level. Personally, I think Arataki Itto is better than Xiao because mainly of his supports, and Xiao has like almost no supports. He has very few, while Arataki Itto actually is one of the few who has dedicated supports. Now, my Animal Mike Tyson, A+ tier for me. He's solid, but just like better animal characters. That's pretty much why he doesn't really go in any higher. Kokomi, another 11 through 20 character. I don't really need to explain. She's really good in the meta, really good in team comps. Diona, S tier for me as well. Diona just really solid. Argument to go to 11 to 20, but not that. For me, it's an S tier just because I feel like there's a couple characters better than her. Shenhe, also S tier. Shenhe, I love her. She's super good, but she's kind of one of those niche characters where if you do not have a cryo team, you won't really use Shenhe. She's not like some type of DPS or crazy support. She's mainly like a support that if you have a lot of money, if you're a whale, you can get her. But most of the time, if you're not a whale, I would not recommend Shenhe because she's just a 5-star support. Cyno was the character I talked about last video, and if you want a more detail of what I think of Cyno, he's one of my favorite characters of the game. Obviously, I love him a lot, so maybe I do have bias putting him into S tier, but Cyno, I like him a lot. There's a lot of reasons why there is to like Cyno, but a lot of people saying he's not even S tier, I find that really hard to believe because, his damage is still good, right? He still has very good damage. There's his team comps, will get better over time, but, his team comps are not the best right now, mainly because, Dendro characters are not that, like, there's not a lot of Dendro characters out, so Cyno is kind of like has some of the worst teams in the game right now. Since Cyno has some of the worst teams in the game, it kind of does make it seem where like, oh, maybe he's not that good, but you know, he's a very solid character even with a very like few amount of teams he can use, because there is very little Dendro characters. But for me, he's still an S tier. That might be biased, but for me, I would rank him definitely S tier. Child 11 through 20, no reason to really explain. He's just a great character, you know, grading some of the best teams in the game. Candace A+ tier. You can see my whole analysis on Candace, which she just has so many flaws, and like there's not a situation where you'd ever use Candace in a team, for me at least. Aika, obviously top 10 character in the game. For me, probably the best sub DPS character in the game, or if in your eyes you might see her as a main DPS, but either way, one of the best characters at her position in the whole game. Next up is Xiao. Xiao is an S tier for me. Xiao really solid, but you know, obviously I think the weakness to him compared to someone like an Arutag Ito is that his supports are very lackluster. There's not very much support you can use with Xiao. Xiao is one of the few characters who has a very dedicated artifact set, has some good weapons, but he lacks the supports to become one of these top tier DPSs, like the 11 through 20 range. Someone like Arutag Ito, who has like a Goro, who has a Zhongli that you can work great with, but Xiao just doesn't have that, in my opinion. Next up is Sucrose. Sucrose is 11 through 20 character for me as well. Sucrose is amazing. Sucrose is one of the best characters in the game. I adore Sucrose. She's such a good character in the game. Highly recommend if you have her, and to build her, even if she's like a C0, she's still viable. Right, next up is Q-Key. Now, there was a lot of comments in my last video saying Q-Key I have very underrated, and after like doing some more analysis and playing with her a lot more, I think I do agree with a lot of people in my comments, and I will be bumping Q-Key up to an S- tier. I think Q-Key's has definitely excelled with some of these recent characters like Cyno and some other Dendro characters who have been released out, like the Dendro Traveler and like Candace, who have definitely helped her out a lot when it comes to, you know, making her viable. So I would definitely rank Q-Key a little higher than I did have last time. 1 tier up. You know, it's not like the biggest jump, but I'm still bumping her up 1 tier, and I see where people was like direction is with Q-Key. And I do think it has a lot to do with Dori being so underwhelming that people value Q-Key a lot more. I think that does play a big role of why people are now giving Q-Key a lot of support. Next up is Hu Tao. Hu Tao, a top 10 character for me, easily. Crazy damage, all that. Hard to not like Hu Tao, and hard to not think she's good in this game. So Hu Tao, automatic top 10 for me. Razor's S-. Obviously there's a big issue with this character flaw, which is you know, he's a physical damage dealer and he's not Eula. If you're talking about physical damage dealer and you're not Eula, you're pretty much not that good. Next up is Alloy. Alloy, obviously one of the worst characters in the game. If you watched my last video, you can see I took a poll on who was the worst character in the game, and unanimously, not unanimously, majority voted for Alloy being the worst character in the game, and it was by a large margin. She got like 80%, like 78% of the votes. Like a very high margin of people believe she is the worst character in the game, and I fully agree. There's no team that I'd ever put her in. There's no team I'd ever use her in. You can't even get constellations. Alloy is just a character that maybe collabs are not the best. Maybe she wasn't the best character to start off with a collab, because no one in the Genshin community was like, oh my gosh, I want Alloy collab. No one wanted that. Everyone like wanted the Evangelion collab or whatever, what's it called, the other partner game of Genshin got. Yujin, if I was supposed to put her anywhere, I'd put her S-, niche character, but you know, super good with a Yoimiya, who's a top tier. Beto, I'd also put in S tier. Yeah, S tier. S tier is pretty solid for, you know, she's gonna get better when future Dendro characters come out, but you know, she's still pretty solid right now. If only she worked with Raiden. Eula would go 11 to 20 range. A lot of people still love to hate on Eula, but I don't understand why. She's super good, amazing damage, right? And she works with some of the best characters in the team, like Fischl, Raiden, Rosaria, a bunch of other cryo supports, right? She works super well with characters like that, even Diona being one of the viable options for her. I don't know why people hate on Eula and why they don't think she's 11 to 20 range, but I think Eula deserves of that spot. Lisa, like, I'd put her like A tier. She's solid, but you know, not a character I recommend. There's a lot of better electro characters in the game besides Lisa. Candace, wait, no, this is not Candace. Colleen is supposed to be A+ tier. Pretty solid. I think the Dendro Traveler is a little bit better than her, but I know when the Dendro Archon comes out, they're just gonna surpass every Dendro character that's in the game right now. Ning Wong is gonna be S minus as well. Solid, but I think her greatest weakness is that she's kind of just like a weird position where she's like a sub DPS, but there's not like really a Geo character that needs a sub DPS. So Ning Wong like an S minus in my opinion. Aito easy 11 through 20 range. I do think Child is a little better, but Aito still on the level of a Child, just slightly worse. Next up is Dendro Traveler. If I was supposed to rank them like the regular travelers, how I always do, it'd be Electro right here, Animo like pretty much right here, Geo right here, and then Dendro right here. Just because like he is like the best Dendro character, well Dendro support in the game, not Dendro character. There is someone who is better than Dendro Traveler that I'll get into. I will get into. Venti is. Do I think Venti goes top 10? Nah. I'll put Venti through 11 through 20 range. Next up is Sayu. Sayu, I'd also put A+ here. Yeah, she's a solid, being an animal obviously helps because you have one of the best sets in the game with the Viridescent set. But, I just never use Sayu. Like, why would you ever use Sayu, in my opinion? Right, next up is Fischl. Fischl would be... If I was supposed to put Fischl anywhere, I'd put Fischl 11 to 20 range, and there is a very strong chance, I think, of her being top 10, right? Obviously, this is a very controversial opinion, right? Because Fischl being top 10, I never had her in the top 10. I usually have her S tier. Only recently I started having her 11 to 20 range because of all these Dendro characters. I am one of the people who is not very high on Fischl when everyone's saying, oh, Fischl is one of the best characters in the game, right? I think she was a really good character, but I was never like a person who's like, she's like a top 20 character in the game. Only recently with these Dendro characters coming out and like characters like Cyno who really need a Fischl that I actually see the value of Fischl. And I think there is a situation where I might put her top 10. But, I'll leave her top 11 through 20 for right now. But she has a very strong argument to be a top 10 character. And I think once the Dendro Archon comes out, Fischl automatically a top 10 character in the game. But we're not living in the future. We're living in the present right now. When that Dendro Archon comes out, I will bump up Fischl. Unless the Dendro Archon is like the worst character in the game. And then, never mind, I'm not bumping up Fischl. Next up is Xinyan. Right? Am I saying that? Xinyan. Xinyan is a B+ tier. Solid character. Psych. Nah, she's not a bad character, right? When she first came out, she was a solid character, but just like nowadays, like I don't know what situation you'd ever use her in. I like her so much. I think her playstyle and her gameplay is like super cool, but like literally no damage. The amount of investment you have to get to make her a decent character is super high, so I'd never recommend Xinyan to anyone. Next up is Tighnari, which I consider the best Dendro character in the game currently right now. But if I was supposed to put Tighnari anywhere, I used to have him in like the 11 to 20 range because he was the best at what he does. But right now I'll have him the S tier just because he is super good, right? I think he definitely has the qualifications to be in 11 to 20 range. But right now, I think there's a character who is better than Tighnari when it comes to like a single target damage dealer. So Tighnari, I would have to give him S tier. And I know Tighnari can like attack multiple hordes of enemies, but when it comes to single target damage dealer, that's where Tighnari like really excels. And I think there's a bow user who's a single target damage dealer who does way better than Tighnari. Well, not like way better, but just slightly better. Diluc, I'd also give him S- tier. Now I've recently like kind of like had a qualification of what makes an S tier, and I think this will like really explain to a lot of people what I think is an S- tier, because I think there's like a clear differentiation of where I put S tiers and where I put S- tiers, right? I think S- tiers, I think they all have a very glaring weakness, not like glaring, but just a weakness where I never am able to bump them S tier from now on. And I think it just has to do with every one of these S- characters has a weakness that I'm just like, they're good, but this weakness prevents them to making an S tier. For me, for Diluc, it's just that he's outdated when it comes to damage dealer. He works with so many great supports, but just when it comes to damage dealing himself, just not that great, right? He's outdated. Dendro Traveler, I feel like he's gonna get surpassed like once the Dendro Archon comes out and future Dendro characters come out. The Traveler, he only has his shine light when he like first releases, and he's like the first element of its kind. But after that, like once like actual Dendro characters come out, the Dendro Traveler is getting back knocked down to like an A+ tier, right? Dendro Traveler only has his time span of him being good is very minimal, and right now he's S minus here. But once like new Dendro characters coming out, the Dendro Traveler is going back down. We just gotta miss it right now. Dendro Traveler has a very small period where he's actually gonna be good, right? Ningguang, it just like, she's a Geo character and she's a Geo sub DPS. And when it comes to, you look at all these main DPS like Aritaki Ito, Noelle, which is like the two biggest Geo damage dealers, like most of the time they don't need such a good character like a Ningguang as a sub DPS, but she's solid. But I think just she's in the niche where like there's not really a good situation she'd be in. Yujin, she's just pretty much like niche. There's only a couple characters that can use her. Razor, he's a physical damage dealer. If you're not talking about Eula, physical damage dealers are not that good. Kyuki is one of the people who can convincingly bump up to S tier, but her weakness right now is there's not that many Dendro characters in the game for her to become more valuable. Right? Next up is Goro. That's kind of my, like, Goro goes S tier, but that's kind of my qualifications for S minus, is that they have a glaring weakness, well, not glaring, but a weakness that prevents me from putting him S tier. So that's kind of like my insight of what like kind of differentiates S tier and S minus, because there is a few people who say Kyuki should be S tier or like Yujin should be S tier, but for me there's like weaknesses in the S minus tier that prevents me from getting into S tier. Obviously they're not that big of a gap. If you can see, it's just like a minus sign, right? If you get an A plus, if you get an A and then you get an A minus, like not that big of a difference in my opinion. Yanfei, right? I think that's her name. Yanfei is an S minus tier as well. I think she's one of the few characters in S minus who doesn't really have a glaring weakness. I just think she's solid enough to be an S minus tier, but she's not good enough to be an S tier. Next up is Jean, the jack of all trades character. I put Jean in S tier. I remember the good old days when she used to be 11 through 20 range for me, but nowadays she's not that level, right? She's an animal character, she's super good, just not on the level of 11 through 20 tier with all these like new characters that we have nowadays. That Jean, just not the best option for healers in my opinion. She's obviously a really good option, just not the best option. Now is Mona. Mona, I'd also put S tier as well. Solid enough, has a case to make it to 11 through 20 range, but just nowadays I would not put her in 11 through 20 range with how many good characters we have in the game right now. Amber, also one of the worst characters in the game. These are the three worst characters in the game in my opinion. Like I said in my last video, you can see my explanation of why I think these are the three worst characters in the game. But you know, three worst characters in the game, just never build them unless you're like trying to build them for memes. I built my Xinyan to like level 80, but you know, I did that for memes purely just to make one video of me like becoming a Xinyan main for a day. Right, next up is Zhongli. Zhongli, I'd put 11 to a 10 range. I really don't have a lot of people in the 10 range right now, but Zhongli, top 10 character in my opinion. Really not much to say. I think a lot of people say he is a little bit outdated when it comes to Archons, but I think Zhongli, just him being such good at like what he does, and he is the best at his niche. I think Zhongli is a top 10 character in the game. Obviously, you can say like, oh, shields are not that useful anymore, or and all that, but I feel still like Zhongli deserves to be top 10 because at his like specialty, he is the best. Kaya is an S minus tier. His flaw that I'd say is that there's this better cryo characters in my opinion. There's like, I don't know, like a couple characters that I will have in the S tier that are all cryo characters, and they kind of do what Kaya does, and they just do better, and it doesn't help that Kaya, it's so hard to get constellations for him. Next up is Xingling, top 10 character in the game. Not really much to say. Part of some of the best teams in the game. I know a lot of people tend to underrate Xingling. I was one of those people who are underrated Xingling, but Xingling's a really solid character in the game. But you know, I still don't understand the people who don't understand how good she is. Right, Xingling, amazing character in the game. Just hard to like refuse that. Dori's the reason why Kyuki definitely has a bump in a lot of people's eyes and has a bump in my eyes. Dori's just like, what is this character, right? Like, I definitely feel like maybe she might be useful with future Dendro characters, but right now she's like whatever. Like, I wouldn't use you in a million years, right? So Dori's just like there. I guess she's kind of good when it comes to electro healer, but 9 times out of 10, I will choose Kyuki instead of Dori. Next up is Ganyu. Ganyu was like the character. If I was supposed to talk about any character coming out of the top 10, it would either be Zhongli or Ganyu to be replaced by Fischl. That's my opinion. There's a reason why I might have Ganyu, why I take out Ganyu, because I know there'll be a lot of people like, Ganyu's still really good. The only reason is that I could kind of a better Ganyu, just a slightly better Ganyu, in my opinion. So that's the reason why I'd put Ganyu down, is just because like Aika is kind of the better version of Ganyu. That's the only reason I bring her down. And Zhongli because like shields are not that big in the game as they used to be. Next up is Chi Chi. Chi Chi's an A+ tier character, solid, but just not the best option. Klee, also S- tier character, though her glaring weakness is that she is clunky. She's a very clunky character, but her damage is super well. Yoimiya is a character I'd move to 11 through 20 range, and she's a character why I say she's a character that the reason Tignari is not in 11 through 20 range is just Yoimiya is just kind of like does what Tignari does, but better, because like if you're talking about single target damage dealer, Tignari, that's where he kind of excels at. If there's just one enemy he has to attack, Tignari will do a lot of damage. But when it comes to Yoimiya, she does a lot of damage as well herself, and I think Yoimiya is the reason why Tignari doesn't make it into 11 to 20 range. Next up is Keqing. Keqing goes S tier. Not really much to say. Keqing, a really good character. Keqing, with all these Dendro characters coming out, makes her super valuable. Next up is Toma. Toma is also a character I'd also put in the S tier. Toma is just a really great character, and with all these Dendro characters coming out, Toma makes him even better, and maybe in the future he might see an argument to go to 11-20 range, but right now he sits comfortably at S tier for me. Next up is Kujo Sara. Kujo Sara, another solid character, but her glaring weakness is that she has to have constellations, and if she doesn't have constellations, if you're not having her C6, just expect clunky gameplay and like just a bunch of like issues with her gameplay. So if you don't have her C6, for me she's like an S-. At C3 she's like an S- for me. If we're talking about C0, I might even bump her down. Right, next up is Yellen. Yellen, another great character, easily top 10 character for me. There's not really much to say about Yellen because I think we all know how good she is. She is just like a 5-star Xingqiu. Obviously, she does a little stuff different from Xingqiu, but I think I like Xingqiu a little more. But they're still not that far apart from each other. Next up is Barbara. Barbara is an A+ tier, and I do think in the future I will see her bump up to an S- tier character, because I think with all these Dendro characters coming out, I think Barbara might be a little bit more useful in the future, and that might be a hot take, but I see Barbara maybe even jumping up to an S- spot in the future, but that might be optimistic speaking. Rosaria, another character why I would say does not make an S tier spot is because look at this: Shenhe, Rosaria, characters that can do what Kai does but better in my opinion. That's Rosaria, a really solid character. One of my favorite characters in the game. Easy S tier for me. Xingqiu would also be a top 10 character in the game. Xingqiu, one of the best supports in the game when it comes to hydro application. So Xingqiu and Yellen are kind of like around the same area, right? You can argue that Yellen's better because she's a 5-star, you get better damage. Xingqiu, you can argue he's better because he's free to play friendly, he can get constellations and all that. Chongyun's like an A tier character for me. I'm not really high on Chongyun. I just think he's very outdated, and there's very little situations that I'd ever use a Chongyun. So for me, he's just A tier for me. Albedo, I'd also put A tier. I have not A tier, S tier. I have a lot of S tier characters here. Maybe I might bump someone up. Probably not. I think I have like everyone in my top 10 solidified, I think. Alright, so now I'm looking at this. I have one more spot for 11 to 20 range. I will decide who's going to be that in the last tier. But there is a couple candidates left, and maybe even a couple candidates in S tier that will finalize my 11 to 20 spot. Next up is Bennett. I think he's an easy top 10 tier character for me, right? Don't really need to say much about Bennett. Bennett's one of the best characters in the game, or if not the best character in the game when it comes to buffing characters. So Bennett, easy top 10 character for me. Might even be number 1. Noelle's S tier as well. Solid character. I think there's a comment below my last video who says, why isn't Noelle 11 through 20 range if Arataki Ito has the same amount of supports that Noelle has? For me, Arataki Ito is a little bit better when it comes to damage dealer, and I think his supports work a little more better for him, and I think Noelle is pretty solid, but I think Arataki Ito is like more dedicated for a damage dealer than Noelle is. But obviously you can make the argument Noelle constellations, she gets better and all that, but for me, when we're talking about like Noelle at like around C3 and Arataki Ito at C0, I'd rather take an Arataki Ito. Next up is Raiden. Raiden, obviously a top 10 character for me. If you watch one of my old tier lists, I think I did like an official ranking where I like ranked 11 through like 20 in order, right? I had Raiden in my top 3. You can watch that video if you want. It will probably be in like one of my like not that far away video, but you can just look it up on my channel if you want to watch me order the top 20 characters in the game, like 1 through 20 ordered. So you can watch one of those older videos. Next up is Yayamiko. Yayamiko is one of the characters that I do have in S tier. Obviously there's a lot of hate I always get when I put Yayamiko in S tier. I just don't think she's like at the level of like a lot of the 11 to 20 range characters when it comes to like a DPS wise. And I think there's a lot of 11 to 20 range that are a bit better. Obviously you can make the argument Yayamiko works with a lot of the top tiers, but I think a lot of the people in 11 to 20 range when it comes to DPS work a lot good with top tiers, but it just kind of depends on all of preference. And in your opinion, you may think Yayamiko deserves to be 11 to 20 range, and I can see your argument. Next up is Kazuha, and Kazuha is a top 10 character for me. So that leaves one issue left, right? Kazuha, easy top 10. I don't really need to explain why Kazuha is a top 10 character in the game. Alright, obviously you have these comments saying Kazuha is not that far from like a Sucrose or Venti. I think Kazuha is clearly better than those two. But let's get into the final character we have to talk about. The final character is Nilou. Now, obviously you see there's an 11 through 20 spot that is missing to complete the 11 through 20. Does that mean I'm going to pick Nilou? I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to pick Nilou in there, right? I first have to talk about what I think of Nilou, right? So Nilou, this is going to be like a more shorter video when it comes to my tier list videos, but you know, this is mainly a wrap-up video for 3.1 when it comes to ranking these characters before the meta changes with Dendro, Archon, and everything, right? So Nilou, I think there is a clear issue with her character, right? I think the clear issue is there is no supports for her, right? Right now, this current day, when I'm uploading this video before 3.1, she does not have any supports. I'm not going to lie, right? Look at her teams, right? We're going to look at her teams, right? Who are her greatest teammates? Colleen, Dendro Traveler, Barbara, Kokomi. You could, if you want to run like a vape team, you can run Kazuha, Bennett, Xinglang, but like that's not your best team. When you're talking about a dedicated Nilou team and you want to build her to like her fullest potential and to use her best kit, we're talking about Colleen, Dendro Traveler, and Kokomi. Now, as you can see, her best support is Kokomi. Really good support, amazing. Her next two supports are in the S- and A+ tier. You know, not the best for her, right? She's in a situation where there's not that many Dendro characters where she can excel. Now, am I gonna like? Are you gonna say that negates her? I'm gonna say yes, right? I'm gonna say it's not really her fault that we don't have Dendro supports, but you know, I gotta take into account when we're ranking these characters. Now, in the future, argument she bumps up to a couple tiers, right? That's an argument, but right now she has glaring team supports. Now, if you want to talk about Nilou, well, Nilou has teams outside of Dendro characters, right? I know those teams. We're talking about Nilou vape teams, right? Nilou vape teams, you know, you get a power character, you get an animal character, and now you're vaporizing Pyro, right? But then you're pretty much making Nilou become a Walmart Aito, a Walmart child, right? Well, Walmart child, I switched those two up, but she is pretty much just a Walmart child and Aito if you take it that direction. If you take her in a vape team currently, she's pretty much just a Walmart version of both of those two. Obviously, like being a Walmart version of Aito and Child is not a bad thing. Like you're still pretty good, right? But you know, you're not like the best in your place and placement. Now, obviously you can say, well, what does she have then, right? Obviously, you're gonna say, well, it's not her fault. There's not a lot of good Dendro characters, and I agree. It's not really her fault, but when it comes to the ranking, I gotta be fair, right? So if I was supposed to put Nilou anywhere, for me, she's definitely not going through 11, 20 spot. I'm sorry, all the Nilou fans, few of you. I don't know how many Nilou fans there are, right? Nilou is definitely a popular character in the game, but you know, for me, Nilou, she's either an low S tier or like an high A S- tier. For me, right now, where I think she is, I think she's an S- tier character for me. Now that might be a hot take, right? Obviously, there might be a lot of people saying like, well, Nilou is a really good character. She does really good damage dealing. She does a lot of good damage. She can like have a 200k rotation, right? And I think that's amazing. There's a lot of characters in this game who has a 200k rotation. Look at Eula. She's 200k rotation when it comes to like just her single ults, right? You got Tignari who's able to do that. Cyno who's able to do it. Xiao who's able to do it. There's a lot of characters who do a lot of good damage, right? I'm not like arguing Nilou is in a situation where she's not doing some amazing damage dealer, right? Nilou, amazing damage. You can't take that away from her. But like I said earlier in this video, if you've been watching this whole video and if you didn't skip to the video, because I know there's a couple people who do that, if you didn't skip the video, you know that in the beginning of the video, when I talk about S- tier characters, I say there's always an issue with the S- tier characters. For Kyuki, it's just that there's not that many Dendro characters, right? There's not a lot of Dendro characters where she can shine. Razor, he's a physical damage dealer that kind of holds him back. Yunjin, she's a very niche character who only works with characters like a Yoimiya, and there's a very few other characters she works good with. Ningguang is just like she's a Geo sub DPS, and we don't really need a Geo sub DPS. Dendro Traveler, he will be outdated and will be surpassed once the Dendro Archon comes out and the future Dendro characters come out. Diluc, he is also outdated when it comes to damage, but there's so many good supports you can use with him. Yanfei is one of the few characters where I do say she doesn't really have an issue. She's just not good enough to be S tier, right? Kaya is just a character who's been surpassed by a lot of other crowd supports like a Rosaria, a Shenhe, a child, well not a child, an Aika, who just like surpass her when it comes to, you know, being a good crowd support. But, you know, Kaya, one of his also glaring issues is that, you know, it's hard to get constellations compared to these other crowd 4 stars. Klee, it's just that she's clunky because she's a sword character. Kudra Sora, it's her constellations, and if you don't have her constellations, she is very clunky, right? So I think Nilou kind of fits the description for what I have in an S- tier. I know I will get hate for this, that, oh, Nilou is like super good, she does amazing damage, right? I admit, right, she does amazing damage, but I just can't see me convincing myself, is she a Tignari level? Probably not. I think Tignari has better teams, even though he lacks some supports. I think Tignari definitely has better teams when it comes to right now compared to Nilou. Right? Tignari teams are like Tignari, Fischl, give him a Bennett, and give him a what am I missing a character? Give him a Bennett, give him a Xingqiu, right? Or whatever. I totally forgot what Tignari's team is. I haven't played Tignari in a while, but when I did play Tignari, he was an amazing character for me. Right? Tignari definitely has a better team than compared to someone like Nilou, right? Then you look at Xiao. Xiao, amazing damage dealer. He is definitely a character who has some dedicated artifacts that help him out a lot. Cyno, he is a character who is kind of more similar to Nilou, where he doesn't have really much of the Dendro characters to help him out. But, you know, he's still a very solid character. He definitely has a lot of Dendro characters to help him out, and it definitely helps that he has a support like Fischl to kind of help him out when it comes to battery on sub DPS. While Nilou doesn't really have that when it comes to her team. Her second best good damage dealer is like a Kokomi. And like the rest of the DPS, when I look at this, I think Cyno, Xiao, Yaimiko, Kaching, Beidou, Tignari, yeah, all of these damage dealers I have an S tier. I think just have better teams, or they have better situations when it comes to the teams, right? They have better supports. Nilou, I think she's just a character when it comes to circumstances where it's like, in the future, obviously there's an argument where she's going to be, I think in the future, definite S tier for me, but for right now, an S- tier character for me when it comes to, she doesn't have that many supports, and I know I will get a lot of backlash. In the future, you could be like, weren't you the guy who said Nilou was at S- tier? Yes, I was that guy. I was him who said she was an S- tier, but I do not regret putting her S- tier, that's my opinion. You can hate me in the comments. You can agree with me in comments. Just let me know why you think Nilou is either justified where she's at, or if any of these characters are justified where they're at, or any of these characters should be lower or higher. I want to know everyone's opinions, because in case you guys don't know, a lot of your guys' opinions shape my actions when it comes to tier lists, because I always like to hear a lot of perspectives so I can get new knowledge when it comes to characters, because there's a lot, like, I can only play it and test so many characters and see so much footage of so many characters, while some people put their life into some of these characters. People put all their investment into characters like a Dori, a Candace, what's it called, a Colleen, a Kyuki, who know how the extreme value of these characters, where I listen to you guys and I understand the concept of how these guys get so good and how these guys are great in their niche, right? So let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to check out some of my other videos, because, you know, I make a lot of other videos besides my tier list, and I want you guys to see those other videos because I know you enjoy, right? If you enjoy these tier lists like here, I have anime tier lists, I have anime reactions, I talk about a lot of other stuff. So make sure to subscribe, like, and watch other content that I post, because, you know, I'm sure you guys will love that content. I know everyone who's watched my content and who actually watches it, my reaction for Chainsaw Man, my tier list, my other Genshin videos. I promise you guys he will love it. So make sure to watch all my other content, and I hope you guys like this video. Make sure to like, subscribe, and let me know what you guys think of the tier list down in the comments below, and I hope to see you guys next time. So peace out. See you guys. Also, I forgot to put Diana through the 11 through 20 range, so she's the one supposed to be the final spot for the 11 through 20 range. But in your headcanon, if you want to believe that your favorite character is in that 11 through 20 range, that's fine by me. Alright, that's all I need to say. See you guys.